to honor the family in the best way I can imagine, she will introduce them in Spanish.
Bienvenidos a todos. Sí tengo mi papel aquí, nomás por si me agarran los nervios. Bienvenidos, estamos encantados de presentarlos nuestros estimados invitados, la familia Reynoso-Ramirez. Macondo Espacio Cultural es una organización sin fines de lucro, dirigida por voluntarios y basada a la comunidad. Se dedican a ofrecer una plataforma para las artes independientes más allá del mainstream, inspirados en los movimientos musicales de América Latina, que defienden por el cambio social. Macondo ha dejado una huella significativa en la escena musical independiente de Los Ángeles de los años 80 y los 90. Su objetivo es invitar al público a explorar un espacio comunitario enraizado en el arte, la música, la comunidad, y con tanto orgullo y emoción, la Galería de Arte de Diane Berger, que somos nosotros, desea darles la bienvenida.
Gracias. Gracias, Sasha. Y yo voy a presentar a los fundadores de Macondo. I'm going to introduce the founders of Macondo, Paula Ramirez and Reynoso, my parents. And first I want to ask my mom, Paula, where the name Macondo comes from. ¿De dónde viene el nombre?
Bueno, el nombre de Macondo, inspirado en la novela de Gabriel García Márquez, 100 años de soledad, ¿verdad? Porque Macondo, pues ahí sucedía todo, magia, de todo, y así fue lo que se hizo en Macondo por varios años.
Qué bueno.
Y una pregunta para Raimundo, bueno, mi papá. Procure fue una distribuidora de discos. ¿Cómo surge ese proyecto?
I'm not sure if I should address who's monolingual here in English. Everybody understands Spanish. So,
I'm monolingual. Actually bilingual, but in a different way.
so tell me, is it okay if I go on en español?
Yes, sí.
Slowly. Bueno, primero que nada, muchas gracias por la invitación, por quien está haciendo un trabajo extraordinario aquí. Ya estuvimos presentes en algunas otras muestras de arte, algo que apreciamos, Paula, Raimundo, la familia. Y las manifestaciones de arte que nosotros consideramos deben impulsarse más allá de lo que se llama mainstream. I'm going to switch a little so we can keep on going. Y ese fue la motivación principal cuando nosotros llegamos aquí al área de Los Ángeles. Primero que nada, buscábamos referentes a lo que nosotros estábamos acostumbrados en la Ciudad de México. Existían movimientos, lugares, promotores, pero los identificamos con una característica, dirigidos, y estaba muy bien, a la audiencia natural, diríamos, que es la que se expresa, entiende, sueña, se manifiesta en inglés. Nosotros como personas que llegamos del sur, y en español había prácticamente nada. Eso para nosotros fue un poco difícil de aceptar y nos involucramos, entre otras cosas, en proyectos culturales incipientes en una estación de radio. La estación de radio es KPFK, que todavía existe, con matices y con claroscuros y altas y bajas, pero ahí fundamos un colectivo, un concepto que nosotros promovemos siempre, lo colectivo, lo hecho de grupo, sobre el individualismo, y fundamos ese colectivo de radio en 1981, 1981, en the summer of 1981. Pero decidimos ampliar el alcance de esto. En la radio nos pedían que hiciéramos programación en inglés. Algunos de nosotros podíamos, balbuceantes, with our broken English, but we were able to convey our thoughts, ideas, ideology, even ideology. Y empezamos a promover música en español. Y la gente empezó a llamar y pedían esos discos en español. Nosotros teníamos vasos comunicantes con nuestros amigos en México y ahí empezamos una relación y fundamos esta organización que se llamó Procure, Promociones Culturales Reencuentro, el acrónimo. Ese fue el inicio, el preludio. Dicen los que saben que todo empieza a la víspera, y ese fue el inicio de Macondo, que ahí estamos, Paula y yo.
Apenas ayer, ¿verdad?
So that was. So I wonder if to make it more complete, should I just go in fragments and let the young Raimundo?
Okay, so as a kid, being surrounded by music, which is something I appreciate about this entire show, because I grew up with records, I grew up with magazines, and being immersed in that world, I learned a lot that led to my current career as an artist and a designer. One of the objects on the wall, or two actually, are catalogs of a music distribution that my parents ran out of our then garage, then became my grandmother's garage. And when I started getting into like punk music, hardcore music, I was like, hey, this is the same thing like kids are doing, and my parents are doing the same thing. They're distributing independent music that is hard to get back then via mail or by people actually coming to our garage to look at records. So that involvement in music led us as kids to try to incorporate music we were into the other activities happening at Macondo. So I'm gonna ask my mom what she thought. Mom, what did you think of the more punk, hardcore stuff that you guys
Hate those kids.
Bueno, primero el ver, bueno, los organizadores que eran Raimundo con un grupo de amigos también, pues la confianza máxima de lo que estaban haciendo. Para mí, en lo personal, el ver a los grupos de músicos y muchachos que llegaban ahí, sí era un poquito medio... Eran, ¿cómo se puede decir? Bueno, muchos jóvenes locos, como todos fuimos en algún momento, con sus pelos así, pero el resultado de los conciertos que se realizaron ahí fue algo maravilloso porque no involucraba alcohol. Los muchachos se divertían con la música. De los grupos que pasaron por ahí, algunos ya son famosos. O sea, el trabajo que se hizo ahí hizo historia. Sí, sí, y la confianza plena. Nunca, hasta donde yo sé, hubo un incidente grave, ¿verdad? Cosas de repente que sucedían como parte de un salón lleno de jóvenes y jóvenes, pero hasta ahí era un disfrute de la música, de la creación de los grupos que se presentaban ahí, extraordinario. Sí.
So, with this opportunity to incorporate music we were into, I started to see a lot of similarities between the messaging of independent music coming from Latin America and independent music happening here. I learned later on that there has always been an independent music scene and movement in LA that's really strong. And one of the things I've been learning about now is that a venue next to what was Macondo, called the Ukrainian Cultural Center, was also a venue that had a lot of punk history, and some of the bands on the walls that you'll see that did not play at Macondo played there in the 80s and 90s. So one of the things that I really enjoyed and appreciate about this exhibition is that it shows a lineage of music that connects communities and connects people. So one of the things I want to ask my dad is, ¿cómo viste que se conectaban las comunidades musicales en Macondo de diferentes regiones y de diferentes demográficas? ¿Y cómo vistes o cómo sentías que eso formaba parte de la misión de Macondo?
Bueno, nosotros somos de la generación sesentera, from the 60s. Ese es un referente. Y al menos en México, pero sé que en otras partes del mundo, hubo cambios sistémicos en todos los órdenes, en todos. Nos tocó en México ser parte de esa transición, de ese parteaguas. Fast forward, en los 80s, al menos nuestra experiencia fue en Los Ángeles y sur de California, estaban ocurriendo también fenómenos que estaban sacudiendo las estructuras convencionales. Recordemos, sobre todo en América Central, o Central America, estaban ocurriendo cosas que estaban cambiando la visión del mundo del sur hacia acá y de aquí hacia allá. Recuerden que estaban llegando oleadas migratorias por lo que estaba ocurriendo en aquellos países, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Guatemala sobre todo. Y en esos tiempos estaba llegando gente de diversos antecedentes, de todo tipo, socioeconómicos, culturales, étnicos. Y era un hervidero en la zona donde hicimos labor, que fue en Los Ángeles y que se llamaba la Pequeña Centroamérica, en donde era un caldo de cultivo maravilloso para experimentar con lo que hicimos. Porque estaban pasando cosas, llegaban poetas, músicos, pintores, refugiados, promotores culturales, y de repente vemos que aquí gente como Jackson Brown, que era una figura regular por ahí en la estación de radio, y otros más, manejaban un discurso que hacía emparentarnos a todos. Entonces, uno de mis campos es conocer un poco de música, y también entendía yo ya inglés, y me di cuenta que en esencia los llamados indies estaban manifestando ideas muy similares, lo que los teóricos definieron como contracultura, que en esencia era lo que hacían los muchachos y lo que hacían sus contrapartes que ven aquí. Es decir, deslindarse del mainstream, por ejemplo, el manifestarse como auténticos. A mí me daba mucho gusto ver a los muchachos que no seguían el patrón impuesto por la industria, en el caso de la música. Un grupo de rock o progresivo o pop tenía que tener, según esos estándares, alguien de pelo negro, otro de pelo rubio, uno de pelo corto, uno de pelo negro, uno con mirada de maldito, otro mirada de ángel. Todos así eran así como los monkeys de los 60, ¿no? Todos hechos. Entonces estos chavos quebraban todos los esquemas. Y es ahí donde hubo una coincidencia, y de repente nosotros tomamos un paso atrás, como debe ser, y dejamos a los juveniles run the show. Ahí está la...
really briefly and jump into the actual installation. And just two things I want to mention, not to put my parents on the spot again, but so on the wall you'll see some of the flyers that my mom hand lettered. So this is one example here. She hand lettered that. If any of you are graphic designers, artists, are into typography, yes.
Can we come up?
Yeah. So one quick question. ¿Qué te llevó a hacer los volantes así, a mano?
No había de otra.
Exactly.
No
So
había de
that,
otra, entonces teníamos todas nuestras planillas de letras y máquina de escribir manual, también teníamos stencils.
so what my mom just described is a DIY approach to creating things, and in this case, creating things related to music. So she, figuring out how to take what's like at your grasp and available to you, and some things you can kind of get here and there in different ways, can lead to you creating things that are valuable and important to you and to others. So for me personally, seeing my mom doing that kind of work led me to get interested in graphics, getting interested in letter forms, later on in life getting into graffiti, leading to my current career as a designer and an artist. And tied to that were some records that my dad gave me when I was a kid. So he gave me a Clash record by the Clash. He gave me a record by the Dead Boys and a record by the Ramones. So 3 punk bands that I didn't know as a kid. I thought they're really breaking ground in rock music, until now that I look at the records, I see that all those records were put out by major labels. They're like more mainstream, even though like what my dad was describing, the labels were trying to shape what these transgressive bands would look like, sound like, just to kind of sell more product. One of the things that I took from that of super value is the design again of the look of records. So a lot of the things you see on here that I designed are references to what people were doing in that same DIY spirit, where it's like, I'm gonna silk screen the cover for a record like the one on the top right or top left. A label that really influenced me visually, Ebullition Records, just all the care into what bands were putting out, from the flyers to the zines to the record covers. All of that really influenced me, and it started from records that my dad gave me. So in general, this is a collection of photos that tell like a brief visual history of Macondo on the left. More Macondo, the space and the family that was behind it. I'm gonna take a quick break to introduce my 2 sisters. They're also very involved in Macondo, Paola and Paula Julieta.
And I guess, sorry for interrupting.
No problem.
They are wearing face masks because they are shy.
So on this wall, it was almost probably the hardest ask, since the exhibit as a whole is about music, and there's an amazing selection of records. I had to pick 7 that were personally inspirational and have influenced me in so many ways. So the top, Los Crudos and Spitboy, 2 bands that like politically I align with, and also aesthetically, like just everything that was put out by them, about them, with them, like really impacted me as far as the style of art that I still do to this day. Gavino Palomares, there's a woodcut in the middle by Leopoldo Mendez that also influenced me as a kid, and I still love his work, and a lot of my work is also black and white, so that's another reference to my art. And also musically, he has a song on there called La Maldición de Malinche, which is about colonization, and also the sale of our world, of how people can buy our countries and our people and our art, our things. Leon Chavez Teixeiro in the middle, he inspired me to take up printmaking. He saw some of the work I was doing, the drawings. He saw actually some of the punk records that I had, and he was like, hey, like you should try printmaking, and set me off again on a trajectory to where I'm still at now, like working in those mediums. Oscar Chavez has a song called Macondo, based on the book by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. So that record also is very special to me, and I think to all of us. And that's on the photo wall, there's a photo of us with him and his band at one of our old apartments. Life, Love, Regret, Unbroken, also super inspirational lyrically, design-wise. When I started seeing these records by like Unbroken, Strife, it was when computers started coming in. And I was like, hey, I want to learn how to use a computer to do graphic design. So you'll see on the flyer wall, you'll see some of that transition from like cut and paste stuff to Xerox stuff to just stuff printed out straight from a Mac. And Still Life, a band that supported Macondo also throughout its existence as a venue for hardcore shows. Also the roots of emo music, if any of you are into emo, that's one of the first bands that I would consider who blew it up. So yeah, I mean, like my dad mentioned, there were bands that became famous that played at Macondo. For me personally, that was never my intent, is to have bands that would use us as a springboard. But I also think it's important, especially in terms of this exhibit, being next to the photos of billboards on the Sunset Strip, Tower Records, where my dad would take me to buy records. There is a lineage of DIY underground music that in the era we were operating led into a bunch of mainstream things. So that's why I ended with the Jimmy Eat World cassette demo. I think there were kids probably younger than you guys at that time.
Maybe.
They sent out a tape wanting to play at our venue because they knew what we were doing was important, especially in like the independent community of music. But that era in the mid 90s started to attract a lot of industry attention. So in the design of this installation, that's why I have Bikini Kill, which was another groundbreaking band, spread a lot of really good, strong messaging, but also brought a lot of music industry attention to our place. And we were kids, we were not used to music being like an industry, and a thing of, you know, like numbers, like capacities, like guarantees. So it started to change what I thought of as music and my involvement in it. And now, today, like my involvement is doing design work when I can for music projects and just listening to music and going to shows. So in closing, that's why I really have enjoyed this exhibit, because there's a good spectrum of music that I love, and it's taught me a lot of things, like from ideas to aesthetics to how to get something you want to say out into the world and how you can form community with that.